But we're now joined by Juliet Vorster, and she is going to be talking about metaphysical motivation. And hello, Juliet, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Sally.
Welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much.
Now,
it's great to be
perhaps
here.
for those of us who are not totally au fait with metaphysical motivation, perhaps you'd like to explain.
Which I'm guessing is most of us.
Okay. Yeah, the motivation bit everybody gets.
Yeah.
It's, I'm an inspirational success coach, but the metaphysical element is about the unseen realm. We all know about the physics we were taught in school, about 2 + 2 is 4, and all the way that things work. But there are other laws, like universal laws, like the law of attraction, which has been very popularized by The Secret, the law of cause and effect, the law of circulation. And all of these things are at work, just like gravity is holding us down. And I personally can't tell you exactly how gravity works, but we know that it does. And these universal laws are exactly the same as that. And they're at work in our life. And what I teach people is how to harness them to reveal their own magnificence, their own power and passion within them, to help them get through some difficult stages in life. I specialise in working with people that are going through stress and depression, but I also coach business owners and generally people who are just looking for more in their life. It's very much using the unseen realm and the power of your mind to move from where you are to where you would love to be.
Sorry.
I was going to say, but you could be, me first. Now, you started out in the Royal Navy, so how do you, and we were talking earlier, radar operator, Royal Navy, and you were in there for what?
I did 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
You come out of that, you go into printing, and you have your own printing business, you then run an advertising business. How the heck do you get from that to be an inspirational and a motivational speaker?
It's a kind of long journey, but in some ways it was very natural for me. I came into the world, even as a child, looking for more out of life, recognising that there had to be more than the things that we were taught. Yeah. So my time in the Navy was a great opportunity for expanding my horizons, and I loved it, and it was great, and it's what brought me to this area, which is a fantastic, great place to live. But lots of different things happened to me in my life that projected that kind of inquiry, and the final thing was 10 years ago I was diagnosed with clinical depression. So a lot of different things that happened in my life got me to that place. I really was in a space where I didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. That's how my life was. I was under the duvet. I had no optimism for life. I felt like I was unworthy. I had no purpose. And gradually, through other people that I met that could teach me, and I was medicated for a while. You know, antidepressants have a position in the world, but from there, slowly but surely, I was able to learn new things, learn how to harness the power of my mind, and to move from that slowly. And it's a slow step. There's not a quantum leap coming out of depression, particularly. No. And interestingly, you were talking about it earlier in the soap operas. It's something that's still very, very prevalent and still not really talked about. But lots of people are on antidepressants or are really struggling. So for me, my journey was gradually improving my life, learning lots of new skills until I got to a place where I am now. And I do have a blissful life. I'm truly blessed and so grateful for the life I lead now.
Can I ask you something? Is there nature versus nurture here with people? Because you meet people and automatically they're a glass half empty person, aren't they? They seem to be. And then you meet other people and their glass is always half full. And that is an old adage that's been used across time. Is there a nature versus nurture thing here, though?
What's really at work here? And again, I love being alive in this day and age because science has caught up with what some of the ancient teachers have always been teaching us. Is, in fact, the whole concept of the genetics and nature is a very small percentage. When DNA was first discovered, they thought it was the everything. Yeah. But what they've now learned is it's only less than 30% of what affects us, both in terms of disease, in terms of our mental patterns. It's very much about nurture. So if you're born into an environment where our parents can't teach us things they don't know, so if you're born into an environment where there's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of lack, it's going to teach you that that's how life is going to support you. And what happens on a very subconscious level, only 7% of the mind is on the conscious. The rest is the subconscious, just below the surface. And those things are working us, even though we don't know they are. We've got hidden beliefs and thoughts. And so it's very much about the experiences we've had in life, and that we then completely subconsciously, not intentionally, we continue creating situations that underpin our already established beliefs. And the great thing is the mind is a plastic thing. Again, even up until 10 years ago, they thought the adult brain was fixed. But we now know that the pathways can be reprogrammed. So whatever wiring we've got, and that's why I know the journey I've come is why I know I can teach anybody else to transform from wherever they are in life now to achieve a life that makes them go, wow. Because our brain can be reprogrammed.
But it's not just our brain, isn't it? It's our use of repetition, and including repetition of our language. And our language, if we start off by saying, I can't, I won't, I shan't, And it is about our language too, that
Very much so.
all the time reinforce that feeling of negativeness, don't we?
Absolutely. There's a brilliant quote from Henry Ford. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. And it's absolutely true. Whatever you believe is true for you. Yeah. And so what we can do is we can start breaking that down. And I work with a lot of different tools and techniques. Affirmations are one of them. And that's just repeating positive statements about yourself. That you are already all right. And every one of us is.
So is this what they call neuro-linguistic programming?
It's part of that, yeah. There's very many different tools and techniques that I use. NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, is one of those. And that's very much about using a lot of tricks in the brain. One of the things that people often suffer with is the voices. Not from a sort of schizophrenic point of view, but the little chatter voice, the monkey mind that people have. And just a quick one for everybody to know. Again, it's a neuro-linguistic programming technique. If you actually make your tongue go really, really heavy in the bottom of your mouth, in the bottom of your palate, just sitting and relaxing, and
I'm trying, but I can't speak.
You can't speak and do it at the same time, absolutely. But what happens is, because physically your body can't talk, because your tongue's completely relaxed, the chatter voice is quietened down. So it's a great quick tip for anybody who's struggling with that, with the constant chatter of negative talk in their minds and the stories they're telling themselves.
Now, in my past, I have actually used and engaged and paid for a life coach, which I felt to be a complete waste of my money. However, what is coming across from you is completely different to what came across from him. And I did not believe him from the first moment he walked in my house to the moment he left my house on the 5 occasions I had him. But just talking to you, you come across in a completely different way. You sound a lot more positive than the chap I'm on about ever sounded. And I would believe you. So there's something about the metaphysical side of things which he didn't engage with that you do that obviously works, because I can't see a negative thought coming out of you at all. At all. And I could with him.
Can I mean, obviously you've got a very positive energy, but can I ask you on that note, you know, you get these kids going on things like the X Factor and Britain's Got Talent. They walk on stage and they strut their stuff and they get there and they say, I'm going to sing for you. And they are appalling. And yet somebody has said, now you've got to be positive, yes, you've got a lovely voice, or you're beautiful. And is there also a danger of making people, creating too much expectation in them by not perhaps saying, look, there are some areas perhaps you need to work on. But mums particularly about it, they say you're beautiful the moment you're born. And they tell you can sing and you look lovely in that little dress. But in actual fact, are you doing people a favour by continually saying, no, you're fabulous, you're wonderful, fantastic?
Well, it's an interesting question actually, Sally. The thing that I know about that is, on a level, each and every one of us is brilliant, fantastic. However, we live in a world, we live in a practical world that can create really big falls, and you see it on programs like the X Factor when the judges are then so harsh with people, and possibly these people have never heard that kind of feedback before. So what I work from is very much about reality. It's about balancing the metaphysical world with the physical world, with those two elements, to bring them together to say, okay, there are practical things that you need to improve. And there's a great saying, there's no good sitting at the bottom of a mountain meditating, you have to climb up it to get to the top. And so I work in both realms, working on the spiritual side of things, the thoughts that create what's going on the subconscious level, but also then coaching people to take the practical steps, which is probably what your life coach was able to do, but not support you so much on a sort of mental and emotional level.
Yeah, basically, I mean, I was struggling. My time management was rubbish, frankly. That's what I really wanted help with. And to be fair, what he told me I already knew, and most of it I'd already done. It's because I'm of a character where if somebody asks me to do something, I don't want to let somebody down, and I like people to like me. And I think that's typical of anyone that's involved in media. You want to be liked, otherwise there's no point being in the media. Unless you're Jeremy Paxman. Exactly. However, so therefore, if somebody asks me to do something, in my own time, whether it be for a charity or to go to school, I do it. To the point and the detriment of sometimes of my home life.
Right.
And I tried to bring this guy in to say, well, hang on a moment, you need to rearrange your time because you need to get back some me time and some family time.
But perhaps you needed a time manager, not a life coach.
Or maybe I just needed somebody to manage my diary for me and put me in the right place at the right time.
Possibly one of the other things that I would encourage you to think about there is that very little word, no. And we're all very bad at that. That's another thing that often
we're taught us to say yes.
Absolutely.
We obey allegedly our parents.
And this is again about those unconscious beliefs, the thoughts that are still working us. My example with this is always, If you took a 5-year-old and you told that 5-year-old that they shouldn't talk to strangers, that's great advice for a 5-year-old. But if, as that child grows up, they're still applying that advice, but 25, you've got a very disassociated young adult. And that's what happens to us on a subconscious level. We've heard these messages when we're young, and we're still applying them subconsciously when we're into adulthood. Being a people pleaser, having to do everything that everybody asks you. Those are all patterns that are repeated, and it's then about just breaking those down and letting go of them and replacing them with more positive kind of beliefs.
To be fair, he did tell me to use the no word, and I just can't bring myself to do it.
I know. Anyway,
it's a good thing.
Anyway, Juliet, we could talk for ages with
Absolutely.
you. Unfortunately, we've only got a short space of time, but how can people get hold of you? Now, you've got a website.
I have got a website, yes. It's nice and easy. It's julietvorster.com.
Right, so they can get hold of you, and of course, if you would like more information about Juliet, then you can always come to us at info@portsmouthlive.tv. We'll be very happy to pass your inquiry on. But it's been fascinating talking to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
We'll look forward to having you on as a regular guest. Most of our guests do come back and see us again.
I'd
so
love
it's
to
not
do
too
that.
terrifying experience.
Fantastic.
And we'll look forward to talking more about this. And thank you very much for joining us today.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Julie. It was nice to meet you. Very honest as well.